Hello, and welcome back to the Lone Star Capital podcast. And I actually do believe this is about the year anniversary of revamping this. I think before it was, different name, but now it's the Lone Star podcast. But about a year into the show, of course, your host here, Craig McGrouther, the Director of Business Development, alongside the co-founder and principal of the firm, Rob Beardsley. How are you today?
I'm super good. Excited to share more on this episode.
Yeah, well, you know what? I am excited to sit back and let you cook here, as they say, and explain everything that's going on. So, why don't you just unpack what you're experiencing and what you are doing on your day to day now, as things have obviously changed.
Well, I think we shared on the last few episodes now that I had the plan to move down to Houston. And so that has now happened as about almost 2 weeks now. I've been down here and I've done a lot. I've really wrapped my arms around the operational side of the business, and it is a super exciting challenge. There's just so much potential that we have. And I think, everybody knows that property management is a old school business and it hasn't really been innovated. And I think that I have the ability to kind of put fresh eyes on it and really innovate in a part of our business that we haven't innovated. If you look at what Lone Star Capital is and what we do, we innovate everywhere we are. On the marketing side, we innovate. On the deal structure side, we innovate. Investor relations, the debt structure. So why not property management too?
Yeah, well, the great thing as well is because it has been innovated, it's probably simple and you can fix simple pretty quickly. But if we can splice together simple with some complexity and some new wrinkles and nuances, that would probably be the best fit, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give away all the secrets here yet. And obviously, it's just getting started, so it's a work in progress. But I've already started to create a new vision for the management company. And so, one of the things that I really see as one of the big guiding lights right now is I want to have 75% or more of our on site teams living on site at the properties. I feel like that would just be the best thing for all parties involved, and I'll kind of get into why. Well, I'll just say why, right? Because for investors, if your on-site teams are living on site, well, they're there 24/7, right? There's more buy-in, there's more care and attention.
It's their day today.
It is their day to day and their night to night. So the way that we do that is we foster a great culture. We have great properties that people are proud to be employees at and proud to live at, right? And then also we're incentivizing our staffs living on site with industry leading employee discounts. So for all of our community managers and our maintenance supervisors, we're offering a 100% discount on a unit if they live on site. And then for all other employees, we're offering a 50% discount. And of course, there's some fine print. If it's a 3 bedroom, if the discount is less. If it's, there's some things like
If
that.
they're
But
getting a studio or one bedroom, a smaller, call it 800 square foot, 600 square foot unit, well, then no problem. That could probably be the nice discount you're referring to.
yeah, exactly. It's all, if you're a leasing agent, then if you're a young single leasing agent, then yeah, you probably only need a 1 bedroom at a 50% discount, right? But if you have been with the company for a long time and you're a maintenance supervisor, we just gave one of the maintenance supervisors a 3 bedroom for a 75% discount. And I think this is a huge win-win because it's, yeah, sure, it's technically costing the property in occupancy because the unit is occupied and you can't collect that rent, but the property's gaining so much more back. So to me, I feel like this is one of my guiding visions. It's just to get this amazing culture, and one of that elements is to get the teams living on site.
Well, it's kind of what you have done at the more corporate level, which is basically creating immense levels of buy-in, right? Well, you're going to be bought in and probably feeling a lot more appreciated and grateful should you get a heftier discount on rent, which is awesome. But I think about it on my end, well, the buy-in I have is very clear. This is something that's, I consider this my baby now, but obviously I have upside in all of our deals. I, roll my money into these. So I'm invested in this deeply. I also know that everyone that I speak with who inbounds into us, which by the way, if you're listening to this and haven't spoken to me yet, you should. So please email me, the email, but once more, it's craig@lsare.com. But with that said, the buy-in that I have is, hey, everyone that I talk to is a potential customer. It could be in 5 days, it could be in 5 years. So, when you have that buy-in, you're not turning and burning through and you see the long-term vision, great things are on the horizon.
Speaking of that mentality, which you're absolutely right, everyone on the corporate side of Lone Star is super bought in, very passionate. Nobody sees this as just a job. And on the very first town hall that I hosted with the entire company, right? Maintenance teams, leasing agents, property managers, everybody. I told them all, I said, hey, your being here is a choice, right? Because you're not here for the money. Because guess what? You can go work anywhere and get a paycheck. So don't tell me that you're here for the money. Because if you're here for the money, you're not in the right place. That's the new culture that we're cultivating for buy-in, for people to be proud, for people to be excited, passionate. And the other element is to be thinking like an owner. I want you to think like an owner of Lone Star, like an owner of the properties. And the same goes with the on-site staff. The on-site staff, particularly the community manager, or as we are now moving towards calling it, the community executive officer, the CEO, because community managers really are CEOs of their property, right? You walk into a property like this, right? We're recording this at one of our new acquisitions. The community manager here manages this entire operation. She's in charge of the staff. She's in charge of making sure the residents are happy, in charge of CapEx if unexpected things pop up. This is a $50 million asset. So she is the CEO of a $50 million asset.
$50 million business.
$50 million business. That is the type of mentality that our community managers and our teams up and down need to have. They need to realize, hey, this is a big job. This is a big responsibility. And so what goes with that is the mindset shift of not just, oh, I'm just property management and then I report to ownership and
Clock in,
ownership
clock
tells me
out.
what to do.
Yeah.
That's not the mentality. The mentality is to think and act like an owner, and then like you potentially one day be an owner, right? And we'll put those systems and incentives in place so people can be compensated as ownership. The other element to make this work, aside from just here you go, a nice free apartment, is compensation, obviously, right? Yes, I just said on the one hand that people shouldn't be here for the money, but on the other hand, you've got to make money, right? You need to be compensated for your effort and feel rewarded. You need to feel good. And so what my other goal within 6 months is not just to have over 75% of our teams living on site, but I want the highest paid teams in the industry. So I want the highest compensation in the industry, and I want the highest percentage of on-site teams living on site.
Well, I'm sure what that's going to do is, bad news travels fast, good news travels, bad news travels faster than good news. But the good news that will spread from something like this will be, oh, wait, Lone Star Capital. Oh, I've heard great things about them. If you're first in class doing whatever your job is as a maintenance person, as a property contractor, as a, leasing officer, whatever it may be, if you hear that they're paying the best, well, the best go to where the best get paid. You know what I mean? It's really that simple. You're going to go where the highest money is. You're going to go where the incentives and the outcome is going to be greatest for you. And that will happen by paying the best and being with the best manager of properties, because you do well on this property, then when we go full cycle on it, we'll probably bring you to the next one and continue the process there. And then speaking of think of it like an owner, what makes me really think about that, and we won't share exactly who this is to, but I was speaking to someone who will be a new hire, who will be announced soon. You can share that if you want. But I said, I was talking about it, about kind of the job, my position, how I feel about the company. He's like, wow, I love the passion. And he's like, it's really cool that you feel that way. I'm like, no. I'm telling you, what I told him was, this is my last job. I'm not working anywhere else unless I'm just a landlord and a property owner. That's what I will retire to at some point in the very, very far future. But I was like, this is my last job. I'm not working anywhere else. That's not a comment. That's a fact. And he's like, wow, okay. So having that mindset instilled throughout the whole company, top to bottom, is very exciting. One thing I want to hit on too is you mentioned that there is, staff, people living at the property, but I would really love to know, now this is very fresh for the audience, I think they might find this to be very interesting. Can you just run through the entire payroll and staff? Because I think, when you're investing in these deals, you just think, okay, invest money here, income here, big exit there. But there's many moving parts, as this is not a $50 million asset. This is a $50 million business that we're acquiring, right? So with that said, can you walk through the whole structure of employees that it takes for a property like this to run?
That's a fantastic question. And
Thank you.
you're very welcome. So I'll give you just the high level, and then we can take some specific examples. So no matter how large a property is, the property needs a community manager or a CM. And you'll also hear that referred to as a PM or property manager, right? And that's not a property management company, right? That's the actual property manager that is in the seat every day managing the property. So even if it's as small as, I would say, like a 60 unit deal, and a 400 unit deal, both of them need a community manager. The caliber of person might differ, but at the top, there has to be that community manager who is able to handle the whole business. Next up is you have the maintenance supervisor, also known as the lead maintenance, but we prefer to call it maintenance supervisor. I honestly kind of want to change the title to something like project manager or project supervisor, because they really are managing a project, right? It's not like they're just knocking out work orders. Oh, there's a broken AC I need to fix. Oh, I need to work on this washing machine. No, they need to manage and oversee the project in its entirety. So they need to be able to see the big picture and be able to be actually good with their hands and be able to problem solve and lead a team. So when it comes to maintenance supervisors, that is a that's a leadership role, and it's a very specific type of person you're looking for, because like I said, they need to be able to be a good communicator, a good leader, and very knowledgeable when it comes to actually construction and maintenance. They need to be good with their hands. Some people are good at one or the other, and it's rare to find that A player that's good at both. So that's the maintenance supervisor. So those are kind of like the two most senior people at the property when it comes to the CM and then the maintenance supervisor. At the end of the day, though, the maintenance supervisor still needs to report to the community manager. The chain of command is very important, because if you're going to manage a business like a $50 million property and you're going to have a collection of them, you have to ensure that chain of command is being followed all up and down. You can't have a maintenance supervisor going over the head of a community manager and trying to go to corporate and stuff. The CM has to be in charge of their ship, period, end of story. So that's at the top. And then depending on the property size, you'll have various employees on the property team as well. So usually right after a CM will be an assistant community manager, right? An ACM. So an ACM and a CM, they work closely together. And then on the office team, to round it out, you'll have a leasing agent. So that would be your typical 3-person office. You'll have a leasing agent, which is more of the entry-level position, then the ACM, and then the CM. And typically, you would look to have about 1 office employee per 100 units. So if you've got a 300-unit property, it would make perfect sense to have a leasing agent, an assistant community manager, and a community manager. However, depending on how skilled the people are, depending on how busy the property is, because
Probably a profile too, because if you have a nicer
profile,
property, I would imagine that maybe you don't need as many leasing officers, but you
you might
probably
need
need.
actually more.
Well, would you also maybe need more maintenance people to upkeep, the grounds, make sure that the foliage and the shrubs and whatnot are
You
kind of
generally need more of
manicured?
everything. Actually, the
Okay,
nicer the property gets, the
interesting.
more people you need, which is kind of counterintuitive, because you'd think that the nicer a property is, the less that you need to do, but the tenants expect more. So you might need to have 2 leasing agents, or like you said, you need a porter and a housekeeper and a make ready and a maintenance technician, right? Maintenance teams can get quite big if you've got big grounds and you're really trying to provide really good resident satisfaction. So anyway, that kind of finishes out the office side of things. And then on the maintenance side, it starts with the maintenance supervisor, and then you have an assistant maintenance supervisor, and then a make ready, which basically they're responsible for cleaning out apartments and turning them over to prepare or making them ready for a new tenant upon move-in. So handling turnover is what a make ready does. And then also you can have a maintenance technician. Some of these roles overlap, or these titles overlap. And then you also have the entry level position on the maintenance side, which is a porter. And a porter is responsible for smaller maintenance tasks and cleaning up the property, doing trash outs, and just kind of helping out the maintenance team where they can. So maintenance is also similar to the office side, where the rule of thumb is for every 100 units, you need at least 1 person on the maintenance team. So if you take a 300 unit property, you're going to most likely see at least 3 people on the maintenance team. I don't want to say at least 3, I want to say pretty much 3, but again, it depends on how big the property is as far as the grounds, as well as the level of service required to actually upkeep the property, and also what you decide to do in-house with your on-site maintenance team and what you decide to contract out, right? So you might be able to save on payroll, but then you might have higher contract service costs as well. So you need to weigh the pros and cons, and that also partially depends on the team that you have, right? Because if you don't have a maintenance technician who isn't HVAC certified, and only your lead maintenance or your maintenance supervisor can work on ACs, and it's the summer and ACs are going out and they need a lot of repair and replacement, you have a problem. And you either need to contract out help or you need to hire somebody else onto the maintenance team that can actually help the maintenance supervisor.
So, how much of a brain dump do you feel like you've had to go through and kind of experience while you've kind of gone through this process of kind of restructuring what's going on now to innovate and to really learn best in practice to implement your vision?
So what I told everyone when I got down here, it's a scary thing because I've come down here and I've been shaking things up, right? And I
What
have
do you mean?
well, what I mean is, unfortunately, I've had to terminate quite a few people that I don't feel like are in alignment with our long-term vision, the culture that I want to build, and or they just lack the skills to be a part of the new A team that we're building. So with the turnover and all the change, right, it's very scary. So I understand that a lot of our team is perhaps a little bit worried, obviously job security,
On walking on
right, and they're
eggshells?
worried
Yeah.
about what changes are coming next. With that being said, though, I must say that a lot of people are very excited about the change, and they are excited about the prospects of working at a company where the culture is amazing, where soon the compensation will be amazing, and so on and so forth. So, but the point I'm trying to make is with all that change, I'm also trying to calm people down and say, hey, I'm here not to tell you what to do, I'm here to listen. So I've just been soaking things up, trying to understand what are the problems that people have, how can I provide solutions, how can we help them be successful. And that's an honest conversation that not everyone is comfortable and prepared to have because they may not be used to having a quote unquote boss coming to them and asking them to voice their opinion, right? They might be more accustomed to a different type of work environment where it's kind of like the tall poppy syndrome where the tall poppy gets cut, right? The tall grass gets cut. So if I just stay down and stay low, I won't get cut. Well, I'd say, hey, you are not going to get fired for voicing your opinion. You can disagree with me. You can say my idea is stupid. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Let's all work together to get to the best solutions.
That's amazing. And it's kind of funny when you go through the process of kind of turning things through, people are walking on eggshells, you talk about changing the culture. You probably learn a lot about people, but you also probably learn about, wow, well, those who want to be here and be a part of this are going to ride with you. And those who are uncomfortable or nervous or maybe even slacking off are probably going to eliminate themselves from the picture. They're going to leave or they're going to get trimmed quickly. So anyone who's competitive, who's got that spirit of them of wanting greatness, should be absolutely thrilled about being on board with what we're doing here today.
I totally agree. And the changes aren't going to happen overnight, but that's why I'm here in Houston for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, well, it's exciting. You're obviously at Preserve at Copperfield, formerly known as Cortland Copperleaf for those who watch the show and have followed along and seen the closing there. We're really pumped about that, and I'm sure every investor who's involved in that deal should be very excited about the fact that you're living there. I personally have been very invested in that opportunity with my dollars and obviously time, but really now at this point, my dollars. So it's great to see that you're there to make sure the process is smooth. And do you want to talk about maybe some things that you've learned from Cortland as you've seen the turnover process there and take over, about how well they've done some things, maybe some tips and tricks that you've taken from them that you'll implement into our business throughout Lone Star communities?
Yeah, so first off, Cortland is a best in class operator. They are an amazing company, and we're very fortunate to be able to do multiple deals with them and work with them. So that's number one. Number two, now being both an owner and resident at formerly Cortland Copperleaf, I get to see what's good and what's bad. I mean, and I don't want to call Cortland out, but there are some things that they did that you kind of say are bad or that we didn't
You
really,
would do differently.
yeah, that we didn't really appreciate. Cutting off the dumpster service 2 weeks before closing. So then we close, and right as we close, we have overflowing dumpsters.
Oh, great.
That's not fun, right? So dealing with small things like that, the thing you realize is property management is a crazy hectic business. It's a lot of moving parts, and takeovers especially are that times two because now you're not only responsible for running the day to day, but you also need to manage the transition. And so there's phone lines and Facebook pages and trash services and all these different details that you need to account for a smooth transition. So one thing that I admire about Cortland is that they are very structured and organized with their transitions. And they have a dedicated person over there, Heather Lutz, who's their director of transitions or transactions. And so I appreciate the structure and the way that they're walking through those processes. So that's definitely very good. Um, the other thing, let me think what else is good.
Probably, I mean, how they've conducted their rehabs and remodeling and renovations of the properties seem to be pretty smooth. I mean, the units are gorgeous that they've done that. So they certainly have done a very good job of delivering a nice product to us, at least.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that's anything
Unique. Yeah.
unique, nor was that anything that I've been able to observe, right?
Yeah.
It's just they've
It's more
renovated the
matter of
product,
fact.
and that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and then speaking on to the corporate side, two new asset managers that I think at this point are hired. Do you want to talk about those individuals and how excited you are to bring on new blood and new life to that side of the business and to the team?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on, both on site and at Lone Star Corporate. So with two new asset managers coming onto the team, we'll have three asset managers on the asset management team who now report to me as the quote unquote COO, as now I am responsible for overseeing all operations. So with me and the three asset managers, soon to be, I'm very excited about this team growing together, learning together, and winning together. To start out, we're gonna throw them into the fire. I've got a 2-bedroom at Copperleaf, and we're gonna be. I'll go back to the New York office for a little bit, and then together we're all gonna come down here, and we're just slumming. I don't want to say slumming it. We're like getting back to the basics.
It's camp. It's literally summer camp.
It's boot camp. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
summer camp. I've got mattresses on the floor. We all crash together. We work together. Jason, our loan asset manager right now, has been staying with me in the apartment, and we're getting up in the morning, we're working, and then we work till 12 or 1 a.m. And we're loving every minute of it, to be honest. And this is how we are learning so much and going so fast. And I can't think of a better way to bring on these new asset managers than say, hey, guess what? You're bunking with me, and we're just going to be here side by side, just making things happen. So
well, it's great to bring new people on as well as we're implementing new systems because there's no old habits to, I guess, unteach them, to have them relearn. They're getting to learn exactly how you want it to be. And the great thing about those two individuals is that they're both bright people. They didn't just, make it through willy-nilly through over 100 applicants to some
200.
jobs, right? So the fact that we've got them there is awesome, but I'm sure they're going to lend some good insights, maybe other information and tips and tricks from their experiences at their own respective, firms from before.
So what I'll also say about the asset manager role itself is the job description has changed in my eyes dramatically. The way that we've currently viewed the asset management role was more of a true asset manager role where you're focusing more so on reviewing financials, putting together monthly and quarterly reporting. You're handling kind of more like asset management initiatives like rolling out a new bulk Wi-Fi program or dealing with the lender and escrow analyses and things like that. So that's very kind of more like finance and accounting and analysis type of stuff, which are great. But the reality of where I'm seeing the asset manager role go next is to be a much more comprehensive role, and one which requires a ton of property management skills and duties in addition to your asset management responsibilities. So that's kind of what we're doing here, what Jason and I are doing here now, right? We're running and gunning. We're coming down here. We are hiring community managers. We're unfortunately firing community managers. We're putting new teams in place. We're doing job postings and interviews, and we are problem solving. So we're kind of getting way onto the ground level stuff rather than just simply as an asset manager sitting back and kind of managing a regional manager who then manages the property team and so on and so forth.
You're basically removing layers of bureaucracy and you're making it a contact sport.
You couldn't have said it better. Removing layers of bureaucracy and making it a contact sport. It's a very legit role, and it's a ton of responsibility. So I'm super excited about the new direction that we're going in as far as that, because I would rather have people who can play the contact sport, it can manage people well, motivate, fire, be a strong leader, and they have some Excel skill, right? Because the asset management piece, we can teach that to anyone, right? To review some numbers and to do some asset management stuff. But running and gunning, that's the unique skill where I can really look at my team and rely on them and say, yes, we are going to be best in class operators and we're going to get the most out of our teams and out of our assets. And our investors are going to go to bed every night knowing that we're doing everything we can for the success and cash flow for their investments.
Well, that's all very exciting. Do you want to give a little quick message to just to investors, to really and capital partners and maybe prospective people who are working with us for the first time, just to really just give a drive home message to everyone associated or soon to be associated with Lone Star Capital about how excited you are and just kind of just a general message about what we're doing and how this is going to be the best it's ever been?
Yeah, I think it's just a summation of everything we've discussed so far. It's the fact that the property management space is ripe for innovation. I think we're bringing a lot of fresh ideas and a great attitude in order to be able to actually create that innovation. And I've already got some great ideas and we're already putting some things in practice. I'm super excited about removing the layers of bureaucracy. I think it does so many things for us. It gets us closer to the action so we can actually see things faster, so more transparency. We always preach transparency to our investors, right? And we always are transparent to our investors. But what about transparency from down all the way from the leasing agent right to the owner? I mean, what other companies, I'm going around to properties every day right now and I'm interacting with leasing agents and maintenance teams. Where else can you get that where the CEO is right there plugged in onto the ground? So that's the culture that I want to work on. And I think that's a huge innovation and a huge value where we can actually save money on payroll because we're removing the bureaucracy, but it's not about the payroll savings. It's about being more effective. It's so funny because the timing was perfect. I was going to bed one night and I was breaking my rule of not being on my phone, which has been a hard habit to
Well,
keep
if you're
up
going to
down
bed at
here.
1 a.m. right now, there's no real time for anything else other than that. So I think that habit can go F itself for the interim,
No,
and then you can go for later.
it's not
But
true. I need to keep up the habit. The problem that's happening with me is I'm working all day, and I'm not trying to get brownie points because if people listen to the show, they know that I never glorify hard work or late hours. Like I think that's not something to be proud of. It's something that you have to do when you have to, but otherwise you shouldn't wear it as a badge of honor.
I heard something really cool about this. Sorry to cut you off. We're not digging ditches. We're not building trenches right now. We're not, doing manual labor. This is time consumptive work. This is not hard work, if that makes sense, right? It obviously is, challenging. It can be maybe a little mentally and emotionally draining when you're firing and whatnot, but this is time consumptive work. We're not digging ditches here.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, while I was breaking my rule of no phone in bed, I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw the CEO of NVIDIA, and he has 60 direct reports. So the CEO of the company, 60 people reporting to him,
It's a lot.
right? And this is a $2 trillion company. Three now?
I think, yeah.
3 trillion?
It passed Apple or whatever the biggest company was before.
Three seems, I think it's two.
Nah,
That's
these
insane.
are new information, and please fact check me and call me out in the comment section.
It doesn't matter.
And by the way, leave a comment, like, subscribe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Either way, for him to have 60 direct reports is very innovative, right? It's very different. And he thinks because of this structure, he cuts 7 layers of management away. That's insane. Think about all the middle managers, the VPs and the regionals and this and that and that, because he has 60 direct reports. And he says, I don't do any one-on-ones, right? With 60 direct reports, how could you do one-on-ones? So he just gets everyone into a meeting and he conducts the meeting. And he said, if it's something worth telling one of them, it's likely worth for the other people to hear it as well. And I'm not anywhere near as successful as he is, and I don't have 60 direct reports like that, but I was on a call with, I think, 6 different community managers yesterday, and I was running and gunning and telling them, hey, here's the new policy for this, and we're implementing that, and we need to problem solve this. And it's great. I just do an hour call with 6 of them, and then they're off to the races, right? Because they're the CEO. They're the community executive officer for 6 different properties. So that 6 properties, that's like almost maybe $200 million of real estate businesses. And I just have an hour call with those CEOs and then they run. So that's kind of how I envision some of the future.
And I'm sure they can share notes, tips, tricks that's working here that'll work elsewhere. So it can all kind of be cross-pollinated together and, really inform and expedite the process all over the place in real time, not just one, but all at the same time, which, speed, right? So the other thing to think about is you're obviously changing the PM and AM side of the business, but the corporate side of the business has also drastically changed too. And it's been very noticeable on my and on my day to day. You don't get nearly as many calls from me anymore pertaining to kind of my side of the business. So do you want to talk about now what Kent's doing, what everyone else is doing, and how that's changed since you've stepped into this position?
Yeah, sure. I think to your point about you being more self-sufficient, right? That's kind of happening by necessity,
Yeah.
right? I just am busy with other responsibilities now. I'm more focused on operations than I am investor relations. And I think that's what's important. And I think that's a good use of my time. And I think you are able, I wouldn't take my eye
No,
off the
I'm
investor
ready. I'm ready
relations.
for it at this point. Like
Yeah.
this is what I was supposed to be doing. This is the eventual evolution. You didn't throw me into this fire a year ago when I wouldn't be able to handle it. But now being, a little more tenured, of course, I'm ready for it, and it was groomed to this point regardless. This was the eventual. This inflection point was inevitable at some point.
Right. So it's kind of cool because obviously necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So by my coming down to Houston and leaving you on a bit of an island, like, hey, just go figure it out. Oh, you need to raise $3 million from a fund, or you've got a call with this major investor. Handle it. You got it, right? And so I think there's a lot of growth that's happening elsewhere in the firm as well, which is
No,
really cool.
actual. That's the thing that I think you're so deep in this forest you can't see the other side of the business. Not that you don't, not that you have oversight there, but there's just a lot of growth and transformation along my colleagues. Your employees, of course, that I don't think you're seeing as much. That's really exciting on my end to observe.
Interesting. Yeah, and this my taking over the operations side is allowing Kent to focus on the property tax exemption work that he's working on, the affordable housing programs, the low income housing tax credit deals that we have going on. So
Light tech, for those who
yeah,
don't know.
there's a lot going on and a lot of
And equity too. He's kind of, been spearheading a lot of the equity questions, a lot of the relationships there, and diving into his community and greater network to attract more people. Which these conversations and opportunities to hear today, and you maybe get dollars, and far tomorrow, but still to be working towards that is really cool to see and very helpful for what we're looking to accomplish today.
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, Brad is really stepped up as well. So Brad and myself are basically spearheading the whole equity side of operations and whatnot. And basically the goal now and what it's going to be is, basically present all the options. You make a couple of choices on, the economics, how you want it to be. And then we go from there, which is super fun because, before it was basically me just kind of being an apprentice, watching you kind of do everything, the why. And now I basically present it to you. You make the final decision and we move on from there. So that's been very innovative in that regard. So that's all fun stuff there. So how long do you see yourself being in Houston for? You said indefinitely, but if you had to forecast this stint, what does it look like for you?
I think I'll be here for sure through the end of 2024.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from there will still be plenty of work, but I imagine that it'll slow down a bit and my vision will start taking hold by then for sure. And I'm sure by then we'll also have some good results to show for all the effort that we're putting in wanting to create a new culture, new processes, etc. So thereafter, I think obviously we'll keep the apartment here, and I'll just be going back and forth between New York and Houston as necessary, and just being the man.
Yeah, it's awesome. What does, past that horizon wise, what changes that are going on today will implement and last for the lifetime of the community or in, I guess, Lone Star? What will stay here? What will your roles look like? Because obviously you're jumping into this position now, but I think you told me on the phone you're never giving up this position. So I'd be curious to know what your day to day will look like moving forward.
Yeah, my original thought was, and I recorded a video recently that some people may have seen talking about how,
Your founder's insight, which everyone should be listening to.
yep, founders' insights are great. And, we wanted to hire a COO to manage this stuff. And we just felt like that wasn't realistic. And it would take too long and it just didn't make sense. So let me become the CEO, interim CEO, COO. But as I've sat in this seat, I'm realizing, first of all, I'm loving the idea of taking away layers of bureaucracy. And with that, why would we hire a COO to then report to me when I could just be the COO and then just be one step closer to the action? So yeah, my new thought is, let's not hire a COO. I want to forever be involved in this, but that doesn't mean I need to be, working 14-hour days and talking to property managers all day long, right? Because eventually we will build up the right culture, the right chain of command, and we'll have asset managers in place that will be able to do the do the more on the ground things with the onsite teams. And then eventually we'll probably have a need for a director of asset management who will be responsible for overseeing the asset management team. But right now, I'm happy to wear the hat of director of asset management, COO, and CEO.
And judge and jury and executioner.
I'm the boss.
Yeah. Very good. Well, I know we want to keep it short, tight, and concise. Anything else you want to talk about before we let everyone go?
No.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Short but sweet. We're probably going to be condensing these episodes to make them a little bit more nutrient dense as we move forward, but that's probably the best way to go. We were going to have some really great guests coming up probably, I would imagine, around the 4th of July or so. We'll probably start having, some more guests in July, I would say. We've got a lot of stuff going on. I've got a ton of conferences and whatnot. I've got IMN in Dana Point coming up. So if you're going to be there, shout out to me. Let me know if you're going to be there. I've also got IMN in Rhode Island the following week. I will be in New York as well. Then I have a little personal travel, which I'm very excited about. But there's no rest for the wicked. There's never-ending work to go on right now, which is very exciting. I think everyone is really galvanized right now. I think everyone is really rising up to the occasion. So it's very fun. It's a nice, frantic sounds almost negative, but it's a very solid pace and tempo that we're all running at right now, and we're excited to deliver the amazing results, keep buying good deals, managing these properties, and delivering incredible results to you, the investor, and hopefully soon to be partner. So thank you so much for being here on this episode, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.